Hello, and welcome to the College Spies presentation of completing your college application. Today we're going to be talking about the parts of the college application, who is in charge of submitting which part of the application, when applications are due, not so much the exact deadlines, but how do you choose between early action, early decision, and regular decision deadlines. We're going to be focusing on the common application and specifically the parts of the common application that require strategy. A lot of the application is actually quite easy and it's really just busy work, but there are several parts that require strategy, and we're going to talk about that today. So let me do a better job of introducing myself. My name is Michelle McInerney, and I am the founder of The College Spy. I'm an independent educational consultant, which is sometimes known as a college admissions specialist or a college admissions coach. And I help students and parents navigate the college admissions process from developing a college list that best meets the student's needs to completing the application in a way that maximizes their chances of acceptance. And I answer lots of questions in between. I work completely virtually with my students on Zoom, and I always have, even before COVID. I find that it's very convenient, and the students find it very convenient to meet with me because they don't have to go anywhere. They just log in and use video conferencing. Before being an educational consultant, I was a school counselor for 16 years, and I've been involved in various roles in education for about 20 years. I am also a college tour enthusiast. I attempt to visit about 40 colleges every single year because I believe that the best way to know the culture of a campus is to go and visit. I tell my students that, and I hold myself to the same standard. My job is to help students know which colleges are good fits for them. So if I haven't been there, I don't feel I'd be very good at doing that. So I visit a lot of colleges. So let's get started and first talk about the parts of the college application. So there's the application itself, and in this presentation, we're going to be focusing on the common application. There's also the student's transcript, the school profile, the secondary school report, letters of recommendation from teachers, from the school counselor, and some colleges allow an other recommender, and SAT or ACT scores. So I'm going to go through who's responsible for sending what. So the school counselor is responsible for sending the student's transcript, the secondary school report, their own letter of recommendation, and the school profile. And I want to explain to you what some of these things are. Let's start with the school profile. So the next two pages of the presentation are a screenshot of the school profile for Camden Hills Regional High School, which is the high school I was last a school counselor at, and I feel they do a really great job with their school profile. This is the document that goes to colleges so that colleges can understand what type of high school the student is coming from. And most school profiles look similar and include similar data. So I'll give you some examples of how a college admissions counselor might take a look at this document and what it might mean to them. So where it talks about graduation requirements on the upper left, you could see that Camden Hills requires 3 credits or 3 years of social studies. So if a student has taken 4 years of social studies, the college admissions counselor at the college will know that that person challenged themselves above and beyond the minimum. This is also the document that explains GPA and weighted GPA. I often hear concerns from parents that the way their school weights grades is different from other high schools, and they feel that their student is disadvantaged because of that, potentially. And it's really not the case that they're disadvantaged because the way that the school does the weighting is spelled out on the school profile. And in addition, many colleges unweight grades when looking at transcripts and then apply their own weighting system so that they're comparing apples to apples when looking at students from various high schools. This document also tells how many advanced placement courses are offered at this high school. And so a a college admissions counselor can understand that if a student took one AP course, that they took one course at Camden Hills out of at least 10 are listed there. Where at another school, it might say that there are no AP courses available to the students. So if students haven't taken AP courses, that isn't their fault that they don't have that rigor, and colleges will excuse that and overlook it when making their decisions about the student in terms of how rigorous their curriculum was. The second page of the Camden Hills school profile talks about other aspects of the school, including sports teams and different activities. And it also talks about the college and university acceptances, so where students get accepted out of this high school. This list is actually very long. I wasn't able to screenshot it and fit it into this document so that you'd be able to read it, so I had it cut off, but it's extremely long, and it's very common in a school profile for schools to show what other colleges do accept their students. So the school counselor, again, is responsible for sending the school profile. The other thing the school counselor sends is a school report, and this is the exact form that they fill out for the common application, and it's the secondary school report or school report. And you can see at the top that they have to put in the student's rank, if the school ranks, out of how many students, their GPA, what the scale of the GPA is. And then under ratings, the counselor is responsible for checking off whether the student is from below average through one of the top five, one of the top few they've encountered that in their career of 1%, for the categories of academic achievement, extracurricular activities, personal qualities and character, and then overall. And then the other thing that the counselor has to do, if you can see at the very bottom, the gray bar, it says, I recommend this student from no basis at all, meaning they don't really know the student, through enthusiastically. So the counselor is responsible for sending that in along with their letter of recommendation. So teachers are responsible for sending their letters of recommendation to the colleges. They either send them, here I'll scroll up a little bit so that I'm not blocking the PowerPoint. They either send it directly through the common application, they upload it themselves, or through a program called Naviance that many colleges in the country use. It's software that they use to help students stay organized, and has a variety of other features. But the point here is that the student doesn't see the letter of recommendation. In fact, most students waive their right to see the letters of recommendation, which is something I recommend that they do, because letters that a student has not seen, and when the colleges know they haven't seen it because they waived their right to see it, those letters hold more weight. So, of course, if you're going to write a letter for somebody and you know they're going to see it, you might kind of round up your assessment a little bit. But if they're not going to see it, you're going to be more honest. So, the letters of recommendation go directly from the teachers to the common application. Sometimes students choose to ask another person for a letter of recommendation, maybe a clergy person or a community member or their boss, and that recommendation falls under what the Common App calls other recommenders. And not every school allows them, but some schools will allow students to include an other recommender, and that person would send their recommendation in through the Common Application on their own. So here's what the student is responsible for sending in: the application itself and everything the application contains, and their SAT or ACT scores if required. Those are often required from the testing agencies themselves, so the ACT agency, or for SAT it would be the College Board. So you need to log into your account on one of those two websites and send your scores to the colleges if you're planning on sending scores. This year, a lot of students are needing to or choosing to apply test optional. So let's talk about the different parts of the Common Application. So we have the college essay, the activity section, a supplemental essay, the new this year COVID-19 question, and additional information. And then under my video here, I have in gray busy work and easy questions. So you need to leave a lot of time to do these questions because there's a lot of them. It takes time to fill out the application, but these don't require any strategy. You'll just know the answer. The student will know the answer. So what I want to do is focus my presentation on the other parts of the Common Application. And again, here are those 5 parts. That really takes some time. So let's talk about the activities section first. So the first thing to know about the activities section is that the Common Application allows you to list a maximum of 10 activities. And this causes students stress because oftentimes they do not have 10 activities to list, and that is completely fine. I have never met an admissions counselor who has told me they would prefer a quantity over quality when it comes to extracurricular activities. They're not looking for you to fill up all 10 spaces, but they're looking for quality. And they know how they can tell the quality of the extracurricular activity by the questions they ask about that activity. And they ask you in the application to put down how many weeks per year, how many hours per week, and what time of the year you're busy with that activity. So they can tell if something is a one-off, one event in an afternoon, you did some type of community service maybe participate in Special Olympics, for example, or is it something that you work on, every single week and you're really committed to? So that information is spelled out in the activities section. It's important to list the activities in the order of importance to you. And students often will say to me right after I tell them this, which ones do you think the colleges want to see first? Which ones stand out the most? They're not interested in knowing, in you guessing which activity they will be most impressed with. They're interested in knowing which activity is most important to you, and that's the one you should list first. So not what you think they want to hear, and not chronologically. Put it in the order of importance to you. And I'm going to urge you, let me scroll up so you can see, when you fill out the activities section, to think beyond organized activities. And students, this is a mistake many students do make because they don't realize that it's okay to put hobbies in here or put family obligations in this section. So you need to write about, in the activity section, how you're spending your time. So if you ski every weekend with your family and that's a big part of your life, that should go in the activity section, not just being the captain of the soccer team. So especially for students who feel they really don't have a lot of activities, organized activities, they don't have a job, they don't participate in too many clubs or sports at school, I really urge them to think about activities more broadly and ask themselves, well, how do I spend my time? And I should put that in my application because colleges are going to want to know how I spend my time. The Common Application gives students 150 characters to explain each activity. This part requires strategy. So in that 150 characters, you want to explain to admissions what your involvement is in this activity, what it means to you, or just flat out what the activity is. For example, I have a student now who's involved in a program called SHIELD. It's a peer mentoring or peer advising type program, but if she just puts SHIELD down, they will have no idea what that is and how much she's doing and what type of work she's doing with the SHIELD program. So it's really important to explain it the way you would on a resume, that you would explain your job or the various activities that you're involved in. So next, let's spend some time talking about the college essay. So the college essay is a story. It should be a story. It's done well when it's a story. And it's a story about the student. And the story illustrates a personal quality or characteristic about the student. The story is not that important because it is a vehicle that delivers the student's message about their personal quality or characteristic to admissions. So students are often very concerned about the topic. What topic should I write about? What should I write about? And I urge them to think about What is the theme of your essay? What are you trying to tell admissions counselors that isn't reflected in any other part of your application? What do you want them to know about you as a person? Because they are looking at the essay in order to determine what kind of community member you will make if they give you an acceptance to campus, and how are you going to contribute to the community. So they want to get to know you as a person. So it's important to think about, well, what is the message that I'm sending, and what story can tell that message? Let me give you a few tips and tricks around the college essay. So, and I will scroll down to the bottom when I get there. So, the college essay should be written in the student's voice. It is supposed to sound like a 17-year-old wrote it. And so I encourage students to write a story um, in first person about themselves, and that is not in the style of the 5-paragraph English class essay. And just to remind you, that's the essay where you write your introduction, and then you have 3 supporting body paragraphs, and then a conclusion. This is not really what admissions is looking for. They want a story written in the student's voice. And I really urge adults to be careful not to over edit the essay. Get involved and help your student figure out what characteristic or quality they should be highlighting to admissions. Help them understand what story might demonstrate and be a good example of this quality or characteristic, but don't get too involved in the actual writing of the story. So sophisticated language is not necessary in the college essay. It's supposed to sound like a 17-year-old wrote it. And when sophisticated language is added to the essay, it often comes off not authentic. Admissions counselors really care about the story and the message much more than the writing style. So if the student is using words that maybe an adult wouldn't use, an adult might change them and put some more sophisticated language in there, it's just not necessary, and it's not going to help the student get in. And the other reason to be careful not to over edit a student's essay is that when a student is writing about something that they're really proud of, and it's about their personal qualities and characteristics, it's personal, and it should be an opportunity to do a piece of writing that they're proud of. And when that's over edited by an adult, it takes that opportunity for them to feel pride in what they wrote away from them. I just urge adults to be careful with that. I have a method and a way that I guide students through the college essay without ever taking a red pen to their essay and really saying, change this, do that, exactly. Comments are always in the margin. So I want to assure you that your story does not have to be about the time you cured cancer or some similar awesome thing that you did. It can be about something small. It could be a moment in time, something that happened over the course of 10 minutes. Could be the story that illustrates one of your best qualities or characteristics. So next, let's talk about the supplemental essay. So when you fill out the Common App, it's one application that you send to several colleges, and you list the colleges that you want to send it to in the Common Application. You get them, you search for them and put them into the sidebar, and these colleges have the opportunity to customize a certain part of the application, where they can ask very specific questions that apply to just their college. And for a lot of the supplements, there's a lot of drop-down menus and other things that they might want to know that are pretty easy and quick to answer. But oftentimes there are essay questions as well. And I've seen essay questions as simple as, please list 3 words that you might use to describe yourself, or I was just reading Cornell's the other night for Cornell Engineering, 3 words that you would use to describe Cornell Engineering. So that's 3 words. Other times I've seen essay questions that are 150 words, sometimes 250, and I've seen it up to 650, so a full page long essay just like your Common Application essay. So you definitely want to leave time for the supplemental essays, because depending on the colleges that you're applying to, there could be quite a bit of work to do. And oftentimes, the question that is being asked in the supplemental essay is, why are you choosing us? Why are you applying to our college? Colleges very much want to accept students who want to attend their college because it helps them stay high in the rankings, mostly in US News and World Report. Colleges want to appear very selective, so they want to give out the least number of offers possible to fill their freshman class because they know some students will choose elsewhere. So they always, let's say they have 100 spaces in the class, maybe they give 110 or 115 acceptances out, knowing through their analyzing their data that 10 to 15 students aren't going to come. I'm making these numbers small on purpose. So they want to give out the least number um, of acceptances possible to fill their classes. And then if they don't quite fill their classes, that's when they go to the waiting list. And this is how they look very, very selective in the rankings. So you need to do a good job as the applicant of convincing the college that their school is your school, that you will pick them if they offer you an acceptance. So when you write the supplemental essay of why do you want to come to this college or why are you applying here, the key to doing it is to be very, very specific about why you're picking that college. And if you can remove the name of that college and add the name of another college and the essay still works, you can kind of, if you can cut and paste to answer some of the other essay questions that you have for other schools, your essay is not specific enough to convince the college of why you're choosing to apply to them, to their school. Sometimes the essay question it doesn't say flat out, why are you applying to this college? But it says something else that when you read about the college, you realize, oh, they're asking me, why do I want to apply to this college? So look for that. Read in between the lines because that's oftentimes what they are looking for, an answer that answers the question of why are you choosing us? I want to talk about the additional information section of the Common Application. This is optional. You have 650 words if you need it or want to use it. And most of my students do fill out the additional information section because as we get to know each other over the course of often 2 years working together, if we start the beginning of junior year, it becomes clear that the student's story, it can't be told in one college essay. They're telling their story in one college essay, but there's more to say. There's more to that student that has not fit in the application, that if admissions counselors know that other part, they would be impressed. And that's what my students will write about. So I just want to give you some examples of things that you might choose to write about in the additional information section. Students who have two equally important essay topics and you feel your application is not complete unless you write about both might write their second topic in the additional information section. Probably that second topic doesn't have to be written in story style, but it could be. Students who are on the autism spectrum, have a learning disability, or have ADHD might choose to write about that in the additional information section. And I know there are some people out there who are going, maybe we don't want to let everybody know this. You probably do. Oftentimes, college admissions counselors can tell from looking at the transcript that a student has been enrolled in some special education classes or has some special education support. It could come out in the letters of recommendation that you don't see from the teachers or the counselor. Or there could just be some things on the transcript that are confusing to the admissions officer. So for example, maybe a student's grades they're like B minus, C plus, and then they get a 1400 on the SAT or a 1500 on the SAT. And that's confusing. And that looks like, is this student just lazy? Or is this student just underachieving for some reason? That's when a student who maybe has ADHD and has trouble consistently getting all their work handed in and probably scores great on the test, but the teachers are constantly marking them off because and reducing their grades because their work isn't turned in or they get or it's turned in and it's fantastic, but it's not turned in on time. This is the spot to write about that and to explain the type of student you are. Colleges are looking to diversify their campuses in a number of ways. They want diversity in terms of student interests on campus. They want diversity in terms of race and ethnicity. They want diversity in terms of geography, so students from all 50 states and around the world. And the other thing that many colleges want is neurodiversity. They're looking for students whose brains are different from one another. So if you are on the autism spectrum, have ADHD or a learning disability, that could help you get accepted to college. So don't be shy about writing about it. Discrepancies on your transcripts. So is this something to write about in the additional information section? So I gave you the example of the ADHD student. Maybe there's a student with a low grade on the transcript because every year that course was in the morning and they can't get to school on time because something's going on at home. Maybe they have to take care of a sick family member. Maybe somebody in the family uses alcohol or drugs or abuses alcohol and drugs. So this is a spot where a student could write about that and explain discrepancies on the transcript. Or maybe a student had mono one semester and has a dip in grades one semester. Colleges don't want to keep you out because of that. Yes, it's going to affect your GPA, but write about it in the additional info section so they can have a full understanding of your transcript and of you as a student. The other thing students could do, is if this works for some students, is include a link in the additional information section to something they'd like colleges to look at, like their LinkedIn profile. All of my students have LinkedIn profiles. I teach them how to use LinkedIn to connect with colleges, to demonstrate interest, to connect with alumni from colleges, and then and ask questions. And then they're also all set up as they go into college when they're ready to get their first internship. It's already there, the LinkedIn. Now they just have to build on it. Maybe a student has a blog or has a website and they'd like the admissions counselors to look at it. This is the place to include the link. About 35% of colleges admit to looking at social media. My guess is it's more. And my guess is that colleges are more likely to look at your social media if you're on the bubble. They're not sure whether to accept you or another student. So maybe, first it might be clear, oh, this kid, we definitely want them. We don't need to look at their social media to gather more information. Or this kid, we definitely don't. They don't really meet the profile of a student at our university, so they might give a rejection. But for students where they're a little unsure, they might go digging into social media, not to find reasons to reject you, but to find reasons to accept you. So having a LinkedIn profile is a really good idea, and this is the spot to put it if you'd like to include it on your application. So I want to talk about the COVID-19 question. So this is new. Obviously this year. So within the additional info section, you will find this COVID-19 question. And they are asking, it's optional, and they're asking, do you want to share anything about your experience during COVID-19? I don't have a student who hasn't been affected by COVID-19, who hasn't, had extracurricular activities canceled, hasn't been able to participate in the types of things they might have over the summer. I have students who have done amazing things as a result of the pandemic. Amazing community service projects because of it. I even have students whose grades have improved and who have had academic success once they went to online learning. And that can be written about effectively and carefully and could help get you accepted. So this is optional, but it is a space for you to write about what happened during COVID. And if you have the urge to write about COVID-19 and your experiences for your college application, of course we've all heard, oh, everybody's going to want to do that. This is allowing you a chance to write about that here and then using the college essay to write about those personal qualities and characteristics that I was talking about before, so you can include both. So I want to spend some time talking about admissions deadlines. This chart is on my website under the resources tab. It's thecollegespy.com/resources. I have a lot of various resources and things for that are all for free for you to take a look at. So I encourage you to look at the resources page of my website. And this talks about the different types of deadlines that students can choose to apply under. Not every college uses every deadline, but most colleges use at least two. So let's talk about early decision first. So early decision is a binding agreement. The student has identified one college that's their absolute favorite, and they would, if they get accepted to that college, they are willing to withdraw all their other applications and attend. It's a binding agreement, so the only way you could get out of it ethically is if the college did not offer you enough financial aid. You apply by around November 1, sometimes November 15th. You will receive a decision by mid-December, and if you're accepted, you withdraw all your other applications. Why a student would do this is because it is a lot easier to get into many colleges early decision. Remember how I told you that colleges want students who want them? Well, this is the ultimate way to demonstrate interest to colleges, is to say, if you pick me, I won't pick anybody else, I'm coming. So some colleges will accept up to 50% of their class through the early decision round, leaving only 50% of the spaces in the freshman class left for everybody else. So it could be very good strategy if you're applying to a reach college to apply early decision. But you have to know you want to go there. And in a normal year, I would say you need to have visited and made sure that's the one for you. This year's different because visiting is almost impossible, but not 100% impossible. There are some colleges offering some COVID-friendly visits, I guess, with masks and separation. So choosing early decision this year is still good strategy and can help you get in, but it's risky because it might not be the right college for you if you haven't visited to make sure. Early action, you also apply early, November 1. You also find out early by mid-December, but you have until May to decide if you want to attend that school or not. And it's not a binding agreement. You are demonstrating more interest in the college and that you prepared your application early and sent it in early, but not quite as much as early decision because you can still choose to go elsewhere. Early action is good for students who are really happy with their junior year grades and before junior year, and they're happy with their extracurricular activities. You might want to wait to apply in January for the regular decision round if you'd like your first semester senior year grades included in your application. Restricted early action, there are 6 colleges in the United States who do this. One was Princeton, but they're not offering it next year during COVID. This is like early decision, but it's not binding. So the way it's like early decision is you can only apply to one school restrictive early action. So if you apply to a school restrictive early action, Stanford is an example, they have this type of deadline. You can't apply to another school early decision. However, if you get in, you don't have to attend. You can choose to attend elsewhere. There's a lot of if this, then that for all the different 5 now colleges that do restrictive early action, sometimes called single choice early action. So my recommendation is to read the website and the directions very carefully on that. Regular decision. Most of the time, the deadline is due January. The deadline is January 1. That's when your application is due. You receive a decision by late March, and the student will decide by May 1st. Although this past year they had until June 1st to make a decision. It's not binding. And then rolling decision. There is no deadline. You can apply at any time, and you usually find out within a few weeks. So colleges that have that are nice. Last year I had 2 students apply to Keene State that had that and a rolling decision, and it's just nice. They get an acceptance a little bit early, and it's just like, whew, I'm in. I don't have to worry. I do have an option. So I'd like to talk to you just briefly about what we do at the College Spy to help students with essays. So Erin Hubman is our essay specialist, and Erin and I were both trained in the WOW writing method for college essays, and we use a 10-step process to help students write their essays. We guide them through the essay, A big part of that is talking about voice, making sure their voice is coming through, making sure they're telling a story that uh, uh, talks about a personal characteristic or quality of something about themselves. We work on content, we work on structure, we work on polishing. The student writes the essay on their own. It's their essay. They usually do it in about 2 to 3 weeks. I would say 3 weeks in common is common. We don't belabor it. This isn't something the student needs to stress out about for months. Get started, pay attention to it, get it done, and then relax. Both Erin and I offer a lot of support and guidance, and we both feel that the essay can be fun to write and a meaningful and empowering experience, and we enjoy uh, accompanying students on that journey and being proud of their writing at the end, and they are too. If you have viewed this video and you would like to take advantage of the webinar attendee price of $1,900, you can just contact me and let me know that you saw it, and I would be happy to extend the discount to you. And that's the website about the college essay package. Will give you some more information. Also, this fall, we're offering at the College Spy Boot Camp. This is virtual on Zoom. It's 3 weeks, 2 hours each week. We have a Saturday session and a Thursday session. The price is $475. Here's the website. And I will be walking students through the Common Application. And what I find is that parents this time of year in the fall, their biggest stress is that their student is procrastinating on college applications. So they see a deadline that's looming, and the student sees the same deadline, and they feel, oh, they have plenty of time, and it causes household stress. So what I'm going to say is come to boot camp, put that stress on me, and I will walk your student through every step of the process, giving manageable homework. They will complete their application up to the point of having brainstormed topics for their college essay and be ready to write that essay when they leave boot camp. And then I want to tell you how to get in touch with me. My website is there, thecollegespy.com. I am on Facebook and Twitter. My Twitter is very detailed. Twitter allows you to post about 8-9 times a day. It's completely appropriate. So I do, and I put a lot of tips and a lot of articles on Twitter. So if you have Twitter, I recommend you follow at The College Spy. For Facebook, if you put all of that on Facebook, it's spammy. So I usually post about once, maybe twice a day. You can reach me by email, michelle@thecollegespy.com. And I'll also mention that I have 2 Facebook groups that I run. One is for parents of college-bound students with learning disabilities or disabilities. And I have I work with all students, but I have a special interest and specialties in working with students with learning disabilities. So I run that parent Facebook group. And then I also have another one that's called College Parent Information Group. So if you're interested in joining those 2 groups, I'd be happy to have you as part of the conversation there. A lot of parents with a lot of expertise that they can share and people helping each other out. It's really nice. So that concludes my presentation about the college application. You can direct any questions to me on email, michelle@thecollegespy.com. And thank you for listening. Bye-bye.